fishes. Welcome to the Musky Tales podcast. Today's episode is sponsored by T-Bone Guide Service out here in the Chain of Lakes. Our guest with us today, Mike Frer from Twisted Ties and Jigs. Thanks for being here, buddy.
Thank you.
It's been a long time in the making getting this happening. So
yeah.
Even though I see you pretty much every day, it seems like we just haven't been able to get this filmed. So I know time is short, but you've probably been busy making jigs and ties.
Yeah, tying up some jigs and trying to get on the water. My full-time job obviously doesn't really allow me in the winter to get out too often, but
sure.
You know.
Sucks when you got that work stuff in the way of the fun, huh?
Got to take care of the main egg, you know?
Yeah, I get that, so understood. So with the ties and jigs, and you're spending a lot of time obviously making, it seems like, you know, trying to make more and more of them and trying to get them in the shop here. And how long have you been doing this?
I started Twisted Ties and Jigs probably about a year ago.
Okay.
Last fall I started it, so a little over a year. Started kind of with a little Facebook thing, selling them, friends, whatever, and it took off really good to a point where, obviously, as you know, I have trouble trying to get enough stock built to put them into the shops and stuff. So right now, basically, my whole year of doing it was to kind of figure out what, you know, was the hottest sellers, because I've made probably, you know, 100 to 250 different patterns, and most jig companies, they have, you know, a lineup 10, 12, you know, 15 jigs that they sell. Nice thing about me is it's custom, so if you see something you like and you want to change the tail color, the body color, etc., you can give me a call and we work it out. You know, it varies from many types of different materials, where it's stiffer, thinner, you know, more action, give a little different things. Sometimes them fish want, you know, a little more aggressive, you know, more flow. Sometimes they just, you know, you don't want it moving much, but you know, so it's all different. The idea behind it is the custom end of it, but we do want to line up eventually to where people can just go on the website and buy. TwistedTiesandJigs.com. It's not actually fully running yet, because I don't believe in pre-sales where people order, you know, they stock their websites with, you know, 10 or 12 jigs a piece, and then once they sell, they make them. I'd rather have it where I purchase things, I purchase, and within 3-4 days it's on my doorstep. So I won't actually open that thing up until it's ready to go.
Right.
But this whole past year has given me a long time to kind of get a base on what I want to do for my lineup and stuff like that. A lot of local guys around here, you know, some of the guys we work with, kind of tuning our stuff, figuring out what they like. We'll base it off of that. It's a local business. You know, I'll sell outside the states and stuff, but my goal is to keep it local and, you know, support our group of people. For our waters here, you know, that's based off of my color base.
Okay.
So eventually we'll have it based down to, you know, a lineup, and it'll be stocked for next year.
Okay.
For sure.
So are you going to kind of narrow down a regular lineup then? That's the plan?
Yeah.
And how many do you think that'll be?
I might be pushing on the 20 side, just because there's, you know, everybody has their thing. I'm a buyer myself. I buy from a lot of other custom jig companies and stuff. People are like, I don't get it. You know, you make them yourself. Why would you buy from people? Well, my thing is there's a time and a place for every type of jig, which is why in my aspect of what I do is, you know, firmer action, more flowy action. Everything's got a time and a place. And whether it's a teardrop, straight teardrop, or, you know, a hair jig, or a little plastic winged in, or a bug versus a non-bug, everything's got a time and a place.
Okay.
And I'm a small business supporter just as well as you and a lot of other people we know. And we try to keep it at home base here, you know. What people don't realize that around here in this area, within, you know, 40 miles surrounding us, is they'll travel north. I travel myself, certain lakes I like to try, whatever, but they're sitting on one of the greatest fisheries there are here in the Channel Lakes. So,
right. Seen some good fish.
And they don't realize it. Yeah, there's some big fish in here. As you know, I got one of my personal bests through the ice last year, 17.25 inches.
And was that on one of your baits, in all honesty?
That was actually on a Slayer's custom jig with my tie on it. So that's another thing that's going to be nice with my custom thing, is if you have a line of jigs that, you know, you're just dead set on your paint jobs, but you want to put some hair on it. I've already had several people send me their stuff, and I tie onto it. So Yeah, I could post a picture on the page. It was a Slayer's custom jig that I tied a tail on, and that's what I caught it on.
Have you told them you caught that fish? Because that was a heck
Absolutely,
of a fish. Yeah?
absolutely. Yeah, it's been posted on his page.
Yeah.
Great guy, great company.
Yeah.
I started using his stuff and just started recommending him left and right. And he's like, "Where did this guy come from?" I'm like, once I find something and I believe in it,
Right.
I don't care about proceeds or all that. It's just, recommend it.
Get the exposure, yeah.
That day was epic. It was there was 4 fish 17 inches or plus, 2 16 and a half fish, all within 2-3 hours of each other.
Right. And where did yours fall in that size?
Mine was 17 and a quarter.
Wow.
And there was 3 other that were 17,
Wow.
just above, and then a 16 and a 16 and a half.
So it could have been that extra tie that made the difference, huh?
Maybe, I don't know. There was some. It was definitely a big fish day. It was late ice.
Yeah, I remember
we
that.
had
It was
11
fun.
inches of. We don't want to call it sponge, but it was starting to get a little hairy out in the basin here on Channel Lake, and basically a week and a half later, it was open water. So it was definitely late ice. Leads back to my open water fishing thing, where I always tell everybody, you want to go crappie fishing in the spawn action, it's great. You can catch a lot of numbers. You can still get some good fish in the beginning, but anybody who waits for spawn, they're waiting too long. They're missing out on them pre-spawn big girls.
And
man.
that's typically March, April, early April.
Ice out.
Ice out. Really?
Ice out.
Yeah.
As soon as
Which
the
is
ice
probably
ends,
March, April.
as soon as the ice ends, you could fish for a day to a week and a half and not catch anything. But that's the difference between an avid fisherman or not, is that you'll stick it, because you know that as soon as it turns on, you got a 2-3 week window, and you'll still get them after that. But the big thing is that right in the beginning, you're going to get the bigger girls. But that's where like the pre-spawn fish, you got to get out on the water, get into the basins, Basically, they move shallow, they move deep, and by the end of the year, they're moving deep. That's where they're at. They're in the basin, and then they're going to get ready to come in shallow. So if you get them before they come in, once the ice is out, you're going to get in on the big girls. So.
Okay, and when you say by the end of the year, you mean by the end of the ice season?
End of the ice season, yeah.
Okay.
So like in the spring, end of ice season, perfect example of why we hit all them fish. I mean, ice was out within a week and a half,
right.
And they were in the basin, staging, getting ready to come into the shallows.
Okay.
They're going to chase the warm water.
And what time? That was February still?
That was March 9th
that was
last
March
year.
9th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
So,
right.
and I would say literally about a week to 2 weeks, it was gone, the ice. So,
And
yeah.
we had 11 inches then. This year is obviously
it
a
was
unique
was
year in
definitely
itself,
11
but,
inches. Yeah, we'll see. This year's been a very strange year with the ice. Either you had it, we had about a week stretch where a lot of guys were getting out on some good solid ice, maybe only 2-3 inches, but it was solid, catching a lot of fish. And then we lost it. And obviously it's been only 2.5-3 weeks since we've had ice again.
Right. If that, yeah.
And it's weird because they're still getting them in the shells, kind of like it would be 2 months ago, first ice.
Okay.
Different year for me. The chain produces a lot of walleye in the spring, nice big fish. They've worked on the walleye fishery here for years to make it a killer fishery, and it's a flowage, so it helps. But I see them come through the ice a lot this year. Within the past 2 weeks, I've seen more and more people pulling limits of walleyes out of the chain. I mean, just unbelievable, including one of which was a 28-incher about a week ago. The guy pulled out. So, anyone who wants to travel all the way up to Michigan or Minnesota or Mile X and get these big pigs, they're in here. You just got to fish them.
Right. Yeah. And there's probably fewer of them here. But,
there's fewer of them here, but you know what?
Here.
I think we're on our way.
Yeah.
We're definitely on our way. Lake Geneva, not far from here, is the same thing. They're starting to produce some big fish in there.
Right. Now, are guys catching, and gals, the walleye on the same stuff as they do the crappie and bluegill fishing, or is that a whole different fishing altogether?
No, actually, yeah. We were out this past Sunday, and we got a couple unders while fishing for panfish in the weeds, same spot. On a teardrop dig with a little plastic, or a hair jig, etc. They tend to scale up in weight, spoons or tip ups and just a shiner, They just put something a little bit off the bottom and let it do its own work. But around here, you gotta jig them mostly.
Okay.
You will get them on tip ups too, but it's a color sensitive thing too. So. I haven't quite figured it out this year. I haven't been out enough, but I'll get on them,
Sure.
So Just use your tools too, camera, your Vexilar, Garmin Panoptics. That's a big thing right now, huge tool. I know Trevor from Wet and Wild Outfitters. He uses that a lot. They scan the lakes, find their stuff. So yeah, it's about tools and time. You got to put your time in.
Yep.
I'm not going to go out there tomorrow and catch them because I have only been out once. You just got to figure them out. So
Yeah. Do you plan on being out tomorrow, or?
I do actually. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Late in the evening, I'm going to go out tomorrow. So.
Okay. Now that I see the colors on your hat, you got the pink, the black, the neon there. Is that Is that popular colors with the jigs, or does that just have to do with your logos?
A lot of it is. Yeah. So I'll tell you, my hottest color selling things are, besides some naturals and bugs, my biggest thing is neons, yellow chartreuse, green chartreuse, pink, and then you got purple and red. Purple and red fly. So same with golds, golds, purple, reds. If they're not hitting real good, you gotta size down. And some people have a tendency to just, I can't fish with something that small. There's craziness, but when they get finicky, you gotta go small.
Okay.
So it's all different. Today you could be jigging them and getting them. Tomorrow,
right?
If you jig and they don't do nothing, you could be dead sticking. It's just. No matter how good you are, you got to figure them out the day of.
Okay, yeah.
So.
And typically, when you go bigger, it's going to be going down deeper, and then that's
down deeper, faster. Just getting into the zone. You want to get down in the strike zone faster.
Yep.
Sometimes if they'll use bigger for their jigging motion, when you pull it up and it falls, or they pull it up, they want it to fall like this. They want more rapid stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, it's basically just pick and choose. You need a little bigger hook, hopefully for them sometimes, but it all comes down to what line you're using, fluorocarbons, braids, whatever. People use all different stuff.
Sure. Do you have a preference or?
I'll use fluorocarbon leaders.
Okay.
Braids still kind of visible. Some people say they don't see that stuff. They do.
Okay.
So they get spooked very easily. Ed Bagley from Bagley Ice Team, he is going to fish a tournament here soon, and their bream fish are very site specific, and he's actually asked me for something a little less gauge and wire because on the hook, because they can see it. He says they can see it, whatever it is. They don't like it. They'll look at it and walk the other way.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, make sure you hook him up because we sponsor the team there.
Yeah.
For the tournament stuff. So
he's got a couple. He's got a couple specific jigs to himself from me.
Okay.
That I don't make for anyone else.
Okay.
He came to me and spoke to me on the side. We set up some colors for him. And
okay.
I fished them myself because obviously I make them. So, and I've done pretty well on them. So, whatever he knew about those, it works.
Okay.
So, he gets certain same with other people. If someone else comes at me and they're tournament guys and they want something exclusive to them, not a problem. We'll take care of it.
Okay.
So yeah, he's done some pretty good stuff on those jigs. So
okay.
Yeah.
And the season for you, is the ice fishing jigs a lot different than the open water jigs? Tell me about that.
Yes and no. The problem is, the cost wise for me to tie open water jigs, they're cheaper than my tungsten jigs.
Okay.
But they're still a little bit more on the high end side, which some people don't have a problem with, and they pay. I started doing open water ones last year, sold a ton of them. Again, it was, busy season for me and I just didn't get it flying, but it's kind of figuring out which one. Same thing. I found a couple jigs specifically that were ordered repeatedly, and multiple pictures and reports of good fishing coming in on them. I fished them myself. So it'll be the same thing. We'll have a full lineup of lead head tied the same way.
Okay.
Twisted Ties and Jigs is famous for bugs, wings and bugs we call it, or
Critters.
wraps. Yeah, anything that looks like that. We put dubbing wraps on them, give them a little shine, shimmer, make that fuzzy creature look. And then back to your standard where you have a lot of the marabou and chenille wraps and stuff, and that's your basic crappie tie. But what I'm doing now is what I specifically usually do is mostly hard bodies. So they're very durable and they last a long time. I can mimic pretty much anyone's stuff. Not that we try to do it because, you know, we're not stealing people's ideas, but we kind of go on the same line, just in a different body style or whatever, if that's what they ask. But durability is what I'm looking for. So when you buy it, it's a quality jig. I've bought in jigs, you know, people are crazy, $6 a jig. I've bought in several, just painted jigs, no ties, no nothing. But when you get into them and you fish them and you know the difference between quality and non-quality, and you know, a lot of the true fishermen don't have a problem spending that money.
Right. Yeah.
So
the nice part about jigs is you typically don't get them stuck in trees and lose them, or
for ice fishing, yeah, that's the good thing about the tungsten. But you know, a lot of guys around here, they fish cribs and stuff.
Yeah,
and you can still lose them.
Stuff down that way.
Open water's the same way, but you know, I get pretty picky on how I fish them sometimes. So you know, but that's when you use a fire line or something and rip the bush out with you. You know, so yeah.
Now you just kind of mentioned the cribs. Are there a lot of cribs in the chain? Or
There are. There's quite a few of them out there.
More than people realize.
More than people realize. You know, we're not gonna lie. You know, some people they don't follow the rules. They're not supposed to dump them, but they do.
They're out there.
Some of them last, you know, a season. Some might be out there forever. You know?
Today's equipment, you can probably find that stuff pretty easy.
Especially with the tools. Like I said, get yourself a camera or Garmin Panoptics, you know, or even if you're good enough with your regular flashers, you can tell what you're on. You know. It's kind of easy to figure out sometimes just by seeing people fish. There's one prime crib out here that's gone now, disappeared. I heard somebody drag something through it. Don't know if they did it for purpose or not, but it could have been on accident. That's one of the main reasons on here. Obviously, you know, the chain's a huge recreational area. You know as well as I do, I keep my boat here, so it's just a great place to be. You're out on the sandbar swimming.
I was gonna say it could have been a ski boat with their anchor down and just drove away.
And that's one of the reasons why they don't really allow them out here, you know, because you'd have to be in 12 foot of water at least, and you know, whatever. And there's a lot of deep waters out here, but I mean, I swim all summer long on some of our best fishing spots. It's amazing to know that, you know, I stand 2 foot of water on sandbars out here where we catch a ton of our fish. So like I said, you know, the recreational life out here brings in a ton of crowd, and it's a huge you know, area to be. A lot of fun, a lot of places to visit. You know, so.
And with that sandbar spot, and just in mind in general, yes, it is very popular in the summer, and I know there's a lot of good fishing in general around it. During the ice season, does that sandbar hold crappie, or do they not really go to that area?
If there's weeds, they need weeds and structure. Now walleyes and stuff, they might, you know, they like to sit up in the sand and come out, so they're gonna, you know, they move. They move even during the day. You know, they're gonna come in at night and feed in the weeds where all the panfish are. They're gonna feed on that you know, prey, as you should say. So it's a matter of timing. Wouldn't be the first time that I've sat right on the sand and pounded sand and catching fish. You know, perch. They'll like to sit if there's some weedy sandbar, and a lot of our sandbars have weeds. I mean, there's, you know, the middle of them, it's a straight sand, but as you start to get off into the muck or whatever, or into the weeds, I mean, there's a adjoining spot where, you know, you got to find that hunting spot.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and the fish are sitting.
So obviously you want to find hard bottom, you know, in the spring and stuff a lot of times, and you know, structure is your biggest thing around here. So.
And with the jigs, you mentioned the teardrop and different types, and I'm not familiar with those. Do you offer all those kind, or
no? So mine are just a tungsten bead tied on a extra strong scud hook, which I've just now started getting into. Scud hook is more of a vertical type jig, and now I've gotten into the horizontals, which is your standard, you know, horizontal jig. So I can put the beads on them, tie bodies, tie hair on them. So I put beads on and I tie. Teardrops are typically just a tungsten bead that's been soldered on or somehow, and it's in the shape of a teardrop, and those are mostly coming painted and stuff. Like I said, Slayer's Custom Jigs, one of the best glow product out there. Jigs, he's got some fantastic paint jobs. I still like to tie onto them because sometimes it's just the shape of the, you know, jig or the weight of it or whatever. So I strictly go tungsten beads. Or I could tie, you know, non-beads, you know. I can tie pretty much anything. A lot of people use streamers in the rivers for walleye in the spring and stuff like that, or the fall, and no weight on it. It's just a 3-way system where they got a weight here and they tie a hook with a hair on it, and whatever works. So white bass run Fremont, same thing. We kill them that way. So I've had a few bass guys call me up. They're starting to fish a lot more tungsten around here.
Okay.
A couple of guys that have come out of here actually have contacted me. They're looking to tie up some hair jigs on these tungsten football jigs that they're using now, and it's a different action. It's not as flimsy as plastic. It's stiffer. It's less reactive. Whatever whatever it is. So it's time of day, different day.
And if I understood you correctly, you said you kind of have a vertical presentation, but then there's jigs to where the hook's kind of sideways,
horizontal.
Going up.
So when you make it look like something, it could look like a minnow that's sitting in the water the way it is.
It's all about the presentation with what you do,
and it's all about how you do it too. I mean, you can tie on a vertical jig, and since you're not real nice and tight, and in the spring, even with a horizontal jig, every hook set, every cast, that hook still stands us fall, and what we do is every time I pull it out, we pull it almost backwards so that when you cast it out and it lands in the water, it's sitting back in its action. And you can do that with my vertical jigs as well. We've caught a lot of fish on them, man. I mean, I didn't just start tying them and throwing them out there. I mean, we fished them, and I got a group of buddies I fish with. We tested them out, and actually, right now, the hot thing's the small ones. They want them little tiny ones.
Oh, really?
He calls me up. Hey,
Even the bigger fish?
Yeah. It doesn't matter.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
That's sometimes it's finicky. They just I don't know.
You got to get them to strike.
Yeah. So it's all about
strike.
presentation, and that's where the different types of materials come in on my stuff. Where you can get you can get my jigs the same way with no hair on them, no tails. And some people prefer that.
Yeah.
It's just like having a wider teardrop or moon-shaped jig, whatever. So.
Yeah. If people want to learn more about the jigs and all that, should they contact you, through
Absolutely.
Facebook or through a website, or come in here? How do you prefer it?
They can contact me through Facebook or give me a call. I mean, my number's on my Facebook page.
Okay.
They can call me and ask me. There's, I got no problem sharing with them exactly how I make them.
Yeah.
Some people want the extra, tungsten's extra weight, faster drops. So most of them get tied that way. And even to get more weight on them, I'll put lead wrap of wire underneath the body. So it's just tungsten lead wrap, thread over the top. It could be glittery thread. I'll clear coat it, put glitter on it if it's not a sparkly thread, whatever,
How much work really goes into
Too much.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is it?
Yeah,
is
a
it
lot of
matter
people are like,
minutes
I
or
don't
hours?
understand, you're so expensive. And I'm not, I do it because I enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
I'm not making money off of it, a ton of it,
Right.
If I was able to do it full time and mass produce them, we might be able to see a profit somewhere in there.
Right.
But I do it for a few $8, whatever.
Sure.
If I want to buy some waxies or something, it's just, it's more of the thrill of knowing that I'm giving people what they're looking for and a custom or, like, oh, wow, there's this new thing, it's working, and
Right.
It's just something I've always wanted to do.
With all the glitter and sparkle and tying, you got to teach your daughter how to the craft. And
and she
would
wants
get a kick out
to.
of that.
She's crazy, man.
So-
She fishes. She's 3 years old. Last year, she was out there jigging, looking at a Vexilar, explaining to me what she's looking at. I mean, she's a little advanced for her age, and
She is.
she's going to be my fishing partner when she gets older. Trust me, we'll be in some full-time
Kids
tournaments and
events
stuff.
and all that, and
kids
then
events.
kinda-
And, that's something about, me and my partner Neil, we're very huge into kids and vet fishing. Take a vet fishing, we do it all the time, but even after the season, we're always putting ourselves out there. Give us a call, let us know if you got any kids or veterans that want to get out and fish, or families that just don't have the ability to. Let us know.
Right.
No charge, no license to guide, none of that stuff. We're just getting you out for a fun day on the water. You know, and some people don't have that ability, and they don't know where to go on shore or what they're doing, and why waste our time? It's for nothing to them. So our big thing is to promote children from being off of their electronics and getting into the outdoors, whether it be hunting, fishing, etc. We're on the fishing end, Kyle Dunn's on the hunting side, and fishing as well. But that's a big thing, is to get them outdoors. But sometimes it's that initial pull the trigger, So we'll tell people, we'll explain, we're on the fish. My big thing to people who are trying to get their children into fishing is, if you know how to fish yourself, great. If not, talk to someone that does. Try to find out when the fish are biting. Get them on some fish for the first couple times. Get them interested, because sometimes you get them out there, they don't do anything, and they lose interest like that.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's a huge thing. Like I said, our world is all about just getting, people out in the water.
Right.
You know? I mean, we're not out to make money or whatever. It's just all about fun.
Enjoy the experience.
Yep,
And
all about fun. Enjoy it.
Yeah,
So,
and learn a little bit too. I know
and
you
like I
take
said-
time to educate people on stuff as you're doing it. So.
Yep. And they're in a fantastic spot for it. I mean, it's the fishery out here is insane. Nobody realizes it's as good as it is. And even in the summer, when the recreational boating's going on, we've done some of our best fishing, getting wrecked all over the water. Bounced all over. But that's what they want.
Yeah. So with the 17 and a quarter inch crappie and the other 4 or 5 that came that day, that was during ice season. What about open water? What's your biggest crappie in the open water that you recall, at least?
Right here in this channel, 2 years ago, I was spider rigging through here.
Okay.
Heading out to the lakes, or other channels, and I never left this channel all fall, and we were catching numbers of 14s, 13s, 12s. I got, in that 3-week period, I got 3 fish 14. I got 1 15, and we've caught several 12, 12 and a halves, and those are good sized fish. I mean,
is it fair to say that the bigger fish, though, might be easier to find in the ice season because of the pressure, possibly, and the boating and all
yes
that?
and no, because there's high pressure in ice season
In
too.
ice season,
where they are.
Yeah.
I think it might be easier with certain tools to find them in the ice.
Okay.
I do know that you have your spring pre-spawn, like before spawn season, you have the females are just there, they're running, they're schooled up, they're you're gonna find them in the basins on the edge, so you're gonna find them big fish spring and fall, and then ice season, they can move just as well.
Right.
So,
No, that's true. Yeah.
like I said, it's all about time. You gotta put your time in, you gotta do your work, and move around for them.
Yeah. Now, you talked about spider rigging in the channel. You don't need a lot of area to do spider rigging, then, it sounds like. And explain what spider rigging is.
You do and you don't. So in the past few years, I was one of the first people I've seen, I'm sure people might have done it, that have spider rigged on the chain. It's very, very, very famous down south, in all the big crappie lakes down there, Grenada, Washington, Kentucky Lake, whatever. All your crappie master tournament guys, they're fishing spider rigs. They're actually pulling crankbaits for crappies with spider rigs. Tight lining, whatever. There's a lot of people that are just strict single pole jigging guys. They're jigging vertical structure, whether it's trees, whether it's whatever, cribs. Spider rigging simulates, schools of bait fish, etc. It's a speed thing. Basically, what spider rigging is when you have several long rods off the front of your boat. Up here, you're only allowed 3 per person. So if you got 2 guys on the boat, there's a seat system, a double L seat. That's what I purchased. It's a base that comes off your main base. You spread out, and there's 2 seats here now. So you're both sitting up front. You got T-bars that hold your rods. I use 14-foot ACC crappie sticks. Push them out in there, and they fan out off the front of your boat. And you can
off
use
the front of the boat.
Off the front of the boat, and you can do it off the back as well.
Okay.
So you can push or pull.
Okay.
You can push and you can pull bait. They'll turn this. That's the nice thing about this system is you just pick it up, you put it on the rear of the boat, and sit the T-bars in there as well, and then they fan it out with they'll start out with a 10-foot to a 12-foot to a 14 to a 16-foot rod in this 4-piece system, and then they spread out farther with the crankbaits, and they'll pull crankbaits with them too.
Okay.
Big for catfishing as well.
Spider rigging is.
Well, the double seat and the T-bars, the
Okay.
pulse, the system for spider rigging.
Okay.
Spider rigging is huge for, a lot of people say it's cheating, but I mean,
It's within the law. So.
it's within the law, and it's what's producing fish.
Right.
Sometimes just jigging ain't doing it. They're covering ground.
Right.
When I put them out, I'm covering 30 feet of water
Right.
when we're trolling, and we're pushing these poles through here, and you can run single jigs, you can run plastics on them, you can run minnows, double minnow rigs, and basically what you're doing is you're covering ground. And when we first start off, if you're trying to find out what depth they're suspended in, you know, we set them, you know, this one's set 3 feet below, this one's set 6 feet below, this one's set 8 feet below, and you know, we name them rod 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you know, and all of a sudden 5 just keeps hitting, 5's hitting, 5's hitting. Okay, well, we change everything to that bait, and then 5's still hitting. They're all at different heights. We move them all to that same height, and now they all start hitting. So it's a way of figuring out where they're at, what depth they're suspending at, you know, whatever it is. And once you do it, it's producing numbers, and usually you can't even keep up with them once you figure it out.
Yeah,
so
you're running into school.
and you can sit still with them too. I mean, it's, you know, like I said, people say it's cheating, but it's efficient. They're not doing it in the crappie master tournaments for no reason, you know. So
yeah, people say live bait fishing is cheating too, and there's
True.
days where live bait fishing doesn't work. So
that's right.
That's just how it goes.
You know, recently Sunday we were fishing, and you know, my buddy and I both just bought another new product jig from a guy, Bricker Bugs, and his ties are similar to mine, but he's got some wicked paint jobs on them. I don't have the time or patience or the gear to do any of that, but his logo is, you know, the no ice fly or the no bait ice fly. And
no bait. Okay.
I'm like, I don't know, you know, sometimes you just gotta have that meat or that scent. And my buddy Adam just literally pounded on him. No bait. Never put a piece of bait on it at all, and he got probably 20 fish out of the same hole.
No, really?
I mean, just you know, it just worked. So you know, sometimes it's bait, sometimes it's not. It could be just something that just don't look right, the color of it or whatever, you know.
So your baits, you're going back to the jigs and stuff. You'll tie stuff on there. Do you put plastics on your jigs? Or
You can.
Do you? Is that how you sell them though, or is it all tied?
Nope, it's all hair.
It's
So
all hair.
basically,
Okay, so
when you buy a wedgie tail, you know, plastic, let's say a wedgie tail, it's a pointy little piece of plastic, and you put it on a teardrop. My jigs, besides the body being a little more curved, that's exactly what you're mimicking with the hair. Once the hair gets wet, it goes into a fine point, and it looks like a tail, or a little wedgie tail. Or then when we start spreading wings on them and stuff, then they look a little more bulky and fuzzy, or they look like wings or larvae. You know, one of the goals to fishing with bugs is match the hatch.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of what I was wondering. What's out here in terms of bugs, insects, all that?
I couldn't tell you the exact same names of them, but
you know what they look like.
Yeah, I know what they look like. You know, pheasant tail, hares there, nymphs. You know, just little bugs. They're larvas. You know, they're creatures. You know, you can look them up or whatever, but they have scientific names for them and all that stuff. You just, you know, water beetles, whatever. I mean, stuff like that. And you kind of know just from, you know, research and looking around what people are using and stuff like that.
When you're out swimming in the water, what's in your pockets at the end when
see
you get
that
out?
little bug crawling around you? Yeah.
So,
So we have a lot of water bugs around here, you know. So,
And what are the size of the jigs that you offer then in terms of weights, and how does that work?
Right now I go from 3.3 millimeter up to like a 5 millimeter.
Okay.
I can tone them down in weight or bump them up with lead underneath, you know, just get them a little more weight on the same size profile. I can take a small bead on a bigger hook, and, you know, so it's just got a little lower profile, but all the weight's still there. It varies, whatever they
mix
want.
it up.
You know, these 6, 7, 8 millimeter teardrops, some of these people, that's big, deep water, you know, current waters. That's another thing about bigger sizes. You asked about sizes, you know, for walleye, and that you typically fish bigger stuff because you're fishing current, so you want it to go down and hold a little more ground and stuff like that. So, yeah. But I stay within the ice stuff. Some of my stuff, my standard is 4 millimeter. That's the big hit one that everyone buys.
Really?
And now I'm starting to see a lot more small, you know, 3 millimeter buyers. That comes in 4 different style hooks. Is, you know, I got 12 or size 12s, size 14, 16, and now even 18 hooks. And the bigger the number, the smaller the hook. And I mean, you're gonna look at it and be like, how do I tie this thing? You know, but it produces fish, you know. So
no kidding. Do you have certain tiny tools, or what the heck are you working with?
I mean, well, I mean, on the ice we have, you know, we use cold snap
like
picks and pull them out. It's you know, if you've seen the amount of tools, threads, colors, etc. that I have,
Yeah,
it's crazy, you know.
Yeah, okay.
Somebody asks for something I don't have, usually I just go and buy it, you know, and whatever, just make it up. So, yeah.
Now, you were talking about spider rigging and some of the length of I think you said long rods was the term you used with that. Obviously, you know, what's a 10-foot rod, or what is a long rod?
The ones I use are 14.
14-foot rods.
14 foot.
Okay.
14 foot. They use 16s. Some guys have even started to come out with some 18s.
And the idea of using longer rods is just to spread it more on that spider rigging?
More spread, keep it away from you farther, less spook.
Okay.
Pro guys are fishing a lot of structure now. Same as, you know, Garmin, Panoptics, they can kind of see this stuff too as well. But when Humminbird first came out with its 360 imaging, it's basically your typical horizontal, you know, graph lines, but it's in a circle and it looks like a radar and it pinpoints your boat right in the middle. And when they are pulling up on structure that's there, they can see it and fish right next to the tree. But when there's underground or underwater structure, which there's a lot of stumps and stuff that they fish, they can see that on their graph. And each line out on the 360 imaging gives you, you know, a 10-foot line, a 16-foot line, you know, a 24-foot line. So it pinpoints your boat from here, and then you see the structure coming in, and as soon as that structure sits at, you know, 16 foot, they know their rod tips are sitting right on top of that structure.
Okay. Yeah.
Because a lot of times, that's the only way you're going to catch them. They're not coming off that structure to bite your stuff. They're sitting right around it, and if you don't target them right on top of it, they're done.
Right.
So, long rod, just keep it away, spreading more ground, like I said, you know, depths are all different. It worked very efficiently for me. So I had my boat fully set up for it, and then obviously, you know, I'm working on getting the pontoon set up for it now. I switched back to the family rig for the family, but eventually we'll have another fishing boat set up that way.
Do you do any of the good old-fashioned bobber fishing for crappie and bluegill? Or?
Every spring.
Yeah, you do.
Every
Okay,
spring.
so you don't have to be throwing jigs.
No,
or other
no,
things.
no.
There's different ways and approaches.
Spider rigging's more or less for, you know, finding the fish, finding
Okay.
schools.
Okay.
You know, they're gonna move back out into the deeper water off the weed edges. They'll come in and feed at night all through summer and stuff. Still, you know, you just got to be in the right place, time. But you can go out and find them in the deeper water, suspended with them. You know,
Okay.
you can go find them right in the middle of the lake, or off a point, or off a deep shelf. You know, you could be somewhere where it comes from 10 foot to 20 foot, and you spider rig back and forth and find them sitting there. Great, but there's no need for it in the spring and fall. You could sit right from shore, and you know.
Right. And I've heard people doing dock fishing in the spring because of the not the bacteria. Well, not just that, but the vegetation or the bugs that are on the pier legs and all that kind of are out there, and that's good food.
That's one of the biggest things is the food. The next thing is especially in the spring, they're coming in. They're chasing warm water.
Okay.
So the warmer the water, the more they're coming in.
Shallower.
So shallower waters, but even in the shallower waters, if you hug tight to pier posts, seawalls, concrete walls, that stuff all collects the heat and absorbs the heat, and that water around it's going to be even water that's warmer than the middle. So so warmer water, more food, right tight to all the vertical structure.
And it's a
of the pier
very
posts.
finite difference than the other temperatures, but still a little bit
Just
different.
enough.
And,
I mean,
just enough to
fish
hold
can turn on and off in 2 degrees. You know,
Right,
a degree. Even.
Yeah,
So,
it seems like that, right?
Yeah, there's
Okay.
specific, you know, degrees that they're more active in.
Is there a target that you pay attention to yourself, or not necessarily?
Not necessarily.
Not
I mean, I
specific
kind of
temp?
know just by, you know, going, but, you know, anything 59, you know, 57 to 63, you're doing good. So, but that doesn't say anything. I mean, we sat right out here in back of here 2 years ago, if you remember, for 3 weeks straight, hitting big fish, and I bet you that water wasn't more than 30 degrees.
Okay.
I mean, I'd drive by in the morning and it'd have a thin sheet of ice over. I'd come by after work, it'd be gone from the sun, and we were just hammering big fish. I mean, lots of them. And then, you know, they move, whatever.
Right.
So,
Okay.
they didn't go far. We were just another channel down the road from here, so
Yeah, they just
still
toss
all
one bait
local
to the
right
next,
here.
right.
It's just, you know, and then this upcoming year could be the year that they're right back here again. You know, so sometimes I've seen them sit in the same channel for 5, 6, 7 years, and then, you know, never didn't see them for 2 years, and then all of a sudden they're back. So
Yeah. Now I know there's the Hook and Crappie Club, which you are
Yep.
a big part of, getting started and kind of an advocate with all of that, and still involved. What's your hopes and thoughts, I guess, with the Hook and Crappie Club, and what are we trying to accomplish with that? And I guess, events and other things, I guess, what do you have in mind with that?
Sure. So I guess when we originally started this, I think it was just kind of a fly-by-night. We just dropped it out there and we tried, and then, we lost some interest. So this time I'm doing a little more ahead-of-time planning, get a little more heavier hitter players in crappie world that would have a little more interest to put more time into it. But our hopes are to get a lot of your local people, which there's a ton of them that fish, they're religious crappie fishermen.
Yep.
Get them together, start fishing some tournaments, get them to spread the word, bring in some kids events. Again, we're back to the kids. That's one of our biggest things. We like to encourage kid fishing. It's a panfish thing, It's a little easier than trying to get them out on boats and catch the walleye, under the bridges and stuff in the spring. So,
or a musky trolling.
Right, exactly. Again, fish of 1,000 casts. They're going to lose interest quick.
Yeah.
So take advantage of the spring bite. Get people active and going. Feel the thump. Once they feel that thump, they're back.
Right. Yeah.
So our goal is to build this, up to something where there's a group of people that just continuously try running events, and then maybe even start spreading the events out, and working a little further out and doing a little travel events, but basically home base here. We have plenty of places to fish from shore. Just talk about it, teach. I'll come in, bring the tie-in stuff, teach kids how to tie, whatever we want to do, teach them how to present baits to people, to the fish, there's all different things to it. Cleaning fish, how to clean them, how to cook them, eat them, how to respect them. Don't catch them, not clean them, and keep them. If you're not going to clean them, throw them back. Try to teach them how to pick to choose the right sizes. Don't keep them too small. Don't keep them too big. I know there's no limit on the chain. We see a lot of real small fish getting taken out. We see big fish taken out. My 17 and a quarter is still swimming.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I don't.
Knew that. Yeah.
Big fish make big fish.
Okay. Right, yeah.
And let someone else catch them next year.
Right.
I mean, it's not like there's thousands and thousands of them running around like the 10 inchers. So, although the chain has started to produce a lot more big crappies in the past couple of years, the fishery has gone up and they're in there. They're,
So kids beware, that 17 and a half inch crappie is probably like 28 inches now, right?
Maybe. You never know.
Yeah.
No. So yeah, it's crazy. I mean, some people, they just keep whatever, and we fish it because we want to fish it more. So there's a size difference where you want to keep the eaters and push back the ones that are going to make bigger fish.
What typically is that size?
I usually, on the crappie end, I'm usually probably a 9.5 is kind of pushing it.
Under,
10 inch, 10 to 12 is good to keep for eating.
Okay.
Not to say I haven't kept smaller just because looking for a meal, if it's been a tough bite. You really shouldn't keep anything much smaller than 9 crappie wise, in my opinion. Yeah. Everybody has their own opinions.
Yep.
Bluegills, I'd say, 8 inches, don't really anything over, 9. I'd say probably 7 to 9 is your slot there where you're going to want to keep them and get some good meat off them and whatever. But everybody's got their own opinion.
Sure, no, understood. And I'll come back to the bluegill because you touched on that quickly. But I want to kind of go back to the hook and crappie. For a while, I think it was the third Thursday of the month, we were trying to do meetings, and we'll kick that off again, and we'll probably make that public on the Musky Tales or Time to Bite websites and or social media pages.
Sure.
But the idea when it first started was downstate Illinois. There's a really good program. I think it's the Central Illinois Crappie Club, is I think what that one is called, and that's in the Shelbyville area, if I remembered.
Yep.
And we were investigating, trying to find something local up here, and it didn't seem like anything existed. So that was kind of the creation of the club. Was we knew that we had great waters, we had a lot of people of active interest trying to find information. So that's kind of how it all started. But yeah, to your point about trying to bring in people that not only want to learn, but some people that could also be the educators, like yourself, and share information. want to try and bring those people together to kind of run this whole program, club, group, whatever you want to call it.
Right,
So,
right, and they're out there. Trust me, there's
yeah,
plenty of them around here. I think you can.
Crappie's a popular thing.
Yeah, I think you could have in time you could build off a subcategory of the Hook and Crappie Club, which would be more of an educational and family fun, eventful type of organization. And some of the heavier hitters in there that are serious, I think you might even slowly find yourself to break out some crappie tournament guys.
Yeah.
Maybe start a crappie tournament series on the chain.
Is there anything around that you know of crappie tournaments, or
not really on the
outside
chain?
of
I mean,
the
there
ice?
might be some small things that I have heard of here and there. Someone
Right.
just throws up a little tournament, but
Yeah.
I don't think there's really a series. We got
Okay.
the walleye thing out here. You got the musky tournaments all the time.
Sure.
There is no crappie tournaments,
Right.
and
Yeah.
and who knows? Even if you brought it into just being a panfish tournament, there are some giant bluegills in here too. It doesn't necessarily have to be crappie, but crappie's a targeted species as well. And
Within
that's,
panfish, right?
yeah, within
Okay,
panfish
okay.
and perch if you can find them. I mean,
Okay.
they're in here.
Right.
We get them a lot more in the ice than we do in the spring or summer.
Okay.
But not as many as we'd like. I mean, but yeah, it's crappie's a very targeted fish, and they can be. It's just a lot of people like doing it, just like bass.
Yeah.
I mean, it's turned into the crappie tournament world is huge now, and it's down south and stuff. It just, again, you see it other places. You haven't quite seen it here, and the thing is you got the fishery for it.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
you got Crappie Masters, you got Crappie USA. There's several different organizations, and I mean, some of these guys are running around on bigger, badder boats than some of these bass guys. I mean, for fishing for crappie,
Right.
It's crazy how serious they get. I mean,
yeah.
so yeah, it's the same thing, just a different species.
Right, yeah. And
So-
when they do the tournaments, like we've got the North American Ice Fishing Circuit, do you know, is that 8 and 8 or 6 and 6 or 4 and 4? What are they?
There's 7 fish.
Seven fish,
for
okay.
crappie, and it's poundage.
Okay, all right.
And then they got big fish. and
we
stuff
got
like
that tournament coming up here, but and then there's Musky Tails kind of put on a couple of our own tournaments. So we just had one 2 weeks ago, I think it
Yes,
was, or
yes.
last weekend. We got 2 more coming up in February, and I think those were 8 and 8 maybe. But I guess with the ratios, is it in these tournaments, or even just out fishing in general, do you typically catch more crappie than you do bluegill out here, or is it harder to find good sized bluegill? Or
Year
what's your
round,
opinion?
it's well, you got to target your bigger fish are going to be, a little more harder to get, but if you fish in time, you'll get them. Spring and fall are usually just, it's a mixed bag. You have your earlier time for spring crappie, but to be a little bigger, but you have to hunt for them a little more.
But do you think there's a bigger crappie population or bluegill population, or is it hard to say? I mean,
I think it's hard to say.
Is it?
Over
Yeah, okay.
over the past few years, the crappie population to me has just grown huge.
Really? Yeah.
Including the size of the fish. We've
Okay.
seen a lot
Right.
more
I've
numbers
seen bigger
of big
crappie,
fish
yeah.
in the past couple of years.
yeah. Someone just caught a good one.
I'd say there's
recently.
probably more bluegills in there, but
Oh, really?
I
Okay.
couldn't say that for sure.
Okay,
I mean, it's
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
So there are some very large bluegills in here, and there's some guys that they know how to target them, and whatever it takes to do it, and they'll figure it out.
As
So-
far as you know, do the bluegill kind of act differently than a crappie in terms of where they're at in different times of year, their
Oh
patterns
yeah,
and all that?
Because crappie will suspend a
So
lot.
they're not in the same areas. Okay.
They're in the same areas a lot.
Uh-huh.
In the shallows, when you're fishing the shallows, they're in the
Okay.
same areas. But when you start getting into the deeper waters or the basins and stuff, you'll find them together, 10, 12 foot, 14 foot of water. You start fishing basins and stuff, and you're not typically going to find the bluegills there too much. It's going to be crappies, and you could be fishing 25 foot of water and catching them out of 14 foot. They're
Oh,
sitting
really?
at 14 foot.
Okay.
They're sitting on that thermocline, and
Yeah.
so they're suspending fish. Crappies are a little different than bluegills in that way. Them bluegills are probably hunkered up in the weeds somewhere
That's what I
on
was
a
just
sandy
thinking.
bottom
Exactly,
or something.
right.
Yeah,
That's what I was thinking.
And the crappies are the same way. They'll hunker up in the weeds too. It's
Yeah.
just they have their different suspend fish.
Okay, sure. Yeah,
So,
and probably the bigger fish will be the
I fished
suspended.
14 foot of water and caught them 3 feet below the ice. You know, they're
Okay.
just sitting there 3 feet below the ice. So
Right.
it's just a matter of, like I said, figuring out where they're at and
Mm-hmm.
what they're doing. So they're a little more challenging, if you should say.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be a reason why there's a target to them.
Sure. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And do you? I know you kind of answered earlier when I was talking to you. As far as when do you like to fish? Is it open water, ice fishing? You said I don't care. I just want to fish. So you don't really have a preference.
No,
You
I
just
would
wanna be
I
out
would
there.
fish every day if I
Yeah,
could.
yeah,
Every day.
yeah.
I have a wife and kids, full-time job, one of which involves in the winter, which I really like to ice fish.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say that I like one or the other more than the other.
Mm-hmm.
Ice fishing kind of is maybe lean a little more, but I don't.
Really? Yeah.
Maybe it's because I wish I could do more of it because I work, a weather-related job,
Right.
so
You
I
get to
could
only
be
do it a few
plowing and
times
stuff.
a year, yeah.
Yeah, so it's tough for me sometimes to get out. So every chance I do, I go.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, that's part of the reason why I don't really get into too many of our tournaments from here. I can't commit to a partner.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I can't commit to, I'll be there or whatever. This
Mm-hmm.
past one, I probably could have fished it. I fished right next to the tournament guys this week, but
Right, yeah.
I didn't know. I didn't
Right.
know if I was still going to be sleeping or even still be on the road.
Right.
And it's not fair to me to grab a partner and do it. And
Mm-hmm.
I know you can fish it with no partners, but you have to be at the rules meeting and all that stuff. And I just didn't have the time to do it. But I intend to get in on some if I know for sure.
Sure.
Like this week was a clear day. We knew there was going to be no weather this weekend. So if it was this weekend, I definitely would have been in on it. So
Yeah.
just can't do it.
Yep, no, I get it. Now, you've been a part of the Musky Tails pro staff from the beginning, so thanks for your time and help with all that.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
The whole idea is for us to kind of work together, promote your product as well, and bring people out, for the sport. Anything on your calendar in terms of events or things you're looking forward to this year, and whether it be kids or vets or
Yeah.
other stuff? What's going on in your mind that you're going to participate with?
Well, I'll take a vet fishing,
Okay.
as always.
Sure.
Not a question in my mind. There's so much
Weekend before
mental
Memorial
reward.
Day.
Yeah.
Yep.
So much mental reward in that. As you know, we try to do that through the year for people, but this year I believe I'm going to try to make the Madison one as well, which
Cool.
is following just after. I started doing it, 4 years ago, and it was just I'm not missing it. I don't have a fishing boat anymore. I have a pontoon now that I actually will go out and take the seats out of the front of it, make it a little more accessible for walkers and wheelchairs and stuff. Like I said, it's just a great thing to do. Good way to pay back. I'm also looking forward to hopefully getting this hook and crappie thing going up and having some of our own events. There's too many events around here to list. I try to
Right.
make every one of them.
Right. Any kids events that you know of that you can think of that are going on?
No,
Crappie or other? No?
nothing that
Okay.
I know of just yet. I know we plan to set something
Yep,
up.
we'll do one, yep.
I'm not sure if we can get back into the Richmond Hunt Club one where we, or it was held through here, but
Yeah,
that was a great time.
That was
Loved
with the
that.
NICC. Yep.
Yeah, so maybe we can get involved in that again. But
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
it was
haven't
a
heard
good
of any,
event.
but we can definitely set up our own, right?
Oh yeah, there's plenty of kids and there's
So-
plenty of fish. So
Yeah.
All we need is time.
A little
So.
more better weather,
Yeah, that's Mother Nature's
obviously
our biggest challenge.
the walleye one we did, or
Yeah.
was it the kids?
World Walleye Association.
Walleye
Yep,
Association,
We
yeah.
kind of hosted it for them. It was their event.
Right, last
and-
year I
Yep,
joined
was
in
a
on
great-
that. That was a great
turnout,
time. Looking forward to that
Yeah.
again. That was pretty cool.
I
how
still
they
got
ran
tables that are painted when kids were doing the lure painting.
Yeah.
So-
I mean, it was great. You had it was treated like a real tournament
Yeah.
for the youngsters, and I think they liked that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it turned
that
out
was
to be
fun.
a good event.
Yep. Your Facebook page. How do people find it on Facebook then?
Just look up Twisted Ties and Jigs.
Twisted Ties and
Yeah, you
Jigs.
can't miss the logo.
There
It's
you go. Are you
one of a
selling?
kind.
Are you selling the apparel or?
Yeah, we're working on getting into more of the sublimation stuff, but
Okay.
as far as the vinyl prints and stuff like that, we can do that. Hats, we get them in stock and sell them. A lot of people like them. Decals as well. I'm got a connection here possibly on a good sublimation person, so we get more of the inked on full color
Okay.
stuff. So we'll see how that goes. We'll be getting some more decals in from our girl Sherry from It's Me Time Decals, and yeah, so we'll see how that
Okay.
goes.
Yeah, hopefully we can stock that stuff here in the
Yeah,
shop
we
too,
will
or promote it
actually.
in some way, shape,
Here
or
here
form.
in Musky Tails and Time to Bite, they're going to start carrying 5-inch decals for your buckets, stuff like that. You know, I don't know if anyone's like me. I'm a sticker guy. You know?
Yeah.
I like to represent what I'm using.
Put
so
stuff out there.
yeah, and then you know, exposure's everything
Right.
nowadays. So you
Yeah.
know, everything. A lot of the ice fishermen are the same way. They're bucket guys, man. They want them stickers for their buckets,
Right, yeah.
and their
Or
boats and
that's-
whatever.
yeah.
You know,
Boxes,
So-
everything else, yeah.
Yeah.
So when you go out and ice fish or open water, is it pretty much flies, jigs, that type of thing, or are you doing other stuff too, fishing wise? I mean,
yeah, trolling,
you're- okay.
crankbaits. I mean,
you're doing everything.
like I said,
then,
I
yeah.
buy from everybody.
Yeah.
I make them. There's a time and a place for everything.
Okay,
You know,
so-
there's a time where I can't touch anything with a jig. Nothing. I got to come in here and buy some minnows and you know whatever and put
And
them on a
cheat.
bare hook
And cheat, yeah.
Yeah, that's what they call it, cheating. You know, and the other people say it's cheating using plastic. So
Right.
whatever. Again, it's
Yeah.
everybody's opinion, but yeah, I'm definitely all about whatever's working, and it takes time to figure out what's working. And you know, as you know, me and Neil and I were catching some walleye pretty well last year trolling. It was a phenomenal year for catfish on crankbaits.
Right.
So I like to troll a lot. I've gotten a little more into trolling recently because it's a little easier for me on the pontoon now.
Right.
Since I don't have the fishing boat. But yeah, it's no matter what, we're finding a way to fish. It
Right,
doesn't
yeah.
matter if it's trolling, jigging, throwing a minnow, throwing a hair jig, throwing a plastic. So anyone who tells you they're specific to one thing, they're lying.
Sure. Yeah, right. Yeah. You gotta try
they're-
different stuff.
Unless they're just, like I do have a few old timers I know, they're musky guys and they just go out once a week and they toss their lures every week, that's
Yeah,
it.
right.
Whatever. So
Right.
yeah.
Now, do I understand correctly? You and Neil are going to be doing walleye stuff. That's the plan.
Yeah, our plan is to team up this year, hopefully,
Okay,
and
yeah.
get on the walleye tournament.
Okay.
We did some
That'd be fun.
fishing last year. Might be donating money. Who knows? But from our experience last year, I think we feel that we can at least compete a little bit.
Okay.
I've never really fished full out tournaments versus derbies. I think I've gotten into one, the chain through just the all around thing. But so tournament world will be a whole nother world for me. Tournaments I've fished are derbies. They throw you might win a couple bucks. It's not a big
Sure.
pot.
Right.
As opposed to like the ice fishing tournaments we're doing now. Those are full out tournaments with rules, tags, numbers. So yeah, I've always wanted to get into tournament fishing. And if I donate some money for a couple of years figuring it
Right.
out, then I will. But we did some numbers last year against some of these tournament guys. I'm friends with a lot of them.
Okay, right, yeah.
Some of the guides, and we compared what we were doing to what they were doing, and we think we can maybe hold our own.
Okay. Wouldn't that
So,
be cool, huh?
yeah.
That'd be fun.
Yeah,
So,
we're gonna give it a shot. We'll
Yeah.
see what happens. So.
represent.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
And with the tournament stuff, with the walleye season, you won't have to worry about snow plowing in the middle of that.
Nope,
So
nope, yeah.
At least we hope around here. You never know, though.
Never know. I've plowed in April before, so.
Oh boy, yeah. So
But that's okay.
yeah.
So
well, very good. I appreciate your time here on the show. And for
Yeah.
our viewers, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And do subscribe so you can keep in tune with all the podcasts. So, Mike, it was a pleasure. Love having you
Thanks,
around,
Kurt.
and your
Appreciate
family
it.
as well. They're awesome. Best of luck with the business, and we'll look forward to years ahead.
sounds good.
Later, buddy. All
Thank
right,
you.
take care, and see you fishes next time.